What is going on, Smashers, and welcome to a brand new video. Now today I'm going back to the very basics of business, and I'm going to be teaching you guys exactly what a sole trader is, what a limited company is, and the pros and cons of both. And then I'm going to be talking about which of the two options I believe is the better route to take if you're going to be selling on Amazon and doing Amazon FBA. So when you come to start selling on Amazon, or when you come to start selling just generally, if you want to create a business, you have got two options. You can either go down the sole trader route or the limited company route. Now, a sole trader, if you've not come across this before, is essentially a self-employed person who is the sole owner of their business. And you typically see sole traders in like maybe the labor industry, so like a plasterer or a decorator or a carpenter, something like that. Those guys typically just work for themselves. They're a one-man band, and they just operate things as a sole trader because it's a bit easier, and we'll come on to that in a bit. Then the second option is a limited company. Now, a limited company is a separate entity in the eyes of the law. So when you create your company, the law views that as a completely separate entity to you. So those are the two main differences there. Both of them have got pros and cons. So first of all, what are the pros and cons of being a sole trader? Well, first of all, as mentioned, becoming a sole trader is very easy. You can literally just decide to do it today. It's very easy to set up, and there's relatively little paperwork. Secondly, there's lower or no accounting costs at all. All you need to do is file your tax return once a year, and that's it. You don't need to prepare accounts or anything like that. Then thirdly, you've got a lot more privacy as a sole trader, so you don't need to disclose any financial information publicly unless you choose to do so. So if you're worried about that, then that is a good benefit of being a sole trader. Now, unfortunately, those are actually the only benefits, or the main benefits in my eyes, about being a sole trader. So what are the cons? Well, first of all, when you are a sole trader, it's your business, it's you, therefore you have unlimited liability. So any debts that you raise or incur are your debts, and therefore if you find yourself in a position where you're unable to pay off those debts, then the bank or whoever has lent you that money has the right to seize your personal assets. So you've got unlimited liability, and that for me is a very big downside of being a sole trader. The next one is, typically as a sole trader, your tax bill will be a lot bigger. In some cases it'll be lower versus a company, but that's only if you're not earning a huge amount. And guys, the whole reason we're doing Amazon FBA is so we can absolutely kill it and earn a fortune. So I can pretty much guarantee once you do that, if you're running as a sole trader, you're going to be paying a lot more tax than you would under a company scenario. Then the next disadvantage is, if you want to set up your business with a friend or family member, you're not able to do it as a sole trader. You can only do that through a partnership or through a limited company. And then finally, and again, this is a big one, guys, when you come to absolutely kill it and you're making an absolute fortune in 5-10 years, however long, maybe you just think, I want to retire. Well, as a sole trader, you're not able to sell the business under Amazon's terms of service, because the account is in your name, and Amazon, just plain and simple, don't allow it. So that is a big one. It's all about thinking into the future. It's something that you're not able to do if you are a sole trader. So pros and cons of a company. Well, the first pro is something that you don't get as a sole trader, and that is limited liability. You only risk what you put into the company. If the business borrows money from the bank, and then for whatever reason, worst case scenario, it's unable to pay the money back, then it's highly unlikely that you will face action from the bank. The bank can only take action against the company. So you have limited liability, whereas in a sole trader option, you've got unlimited liability. Then the next one, another one that I've bolded because this is hugely important, a company is typically a lot more tax efficient than sole traders. More often than not, it will be a lot more tax efficient. then versus a sole trader. So that again is a massive advantage, because it just means that you're going to save an absolute fortune. There's going to be less money going to the government, more money going to you. Happy days. So that again is another massive positive. Another one is it's very easy to set up with a friend or family member. Just takes 2 minutes when you're incorporating the company. You just tell Companies House that you want to set it up with a friend or family member. And another big one, you can sell the company when you make it big. There's lots of websites out there where you can put your Amazon business up for sale. I've seen quite a few people actually doing very well from that. They've created a very successful brand, put it on Amazon, and then they've made 6 figures in 1 to 2 years, maybe even less. So that again is another massive pro of a company. And finally, generally viewed as more credible. So it's a lot easier to borrow money. You go to a bank and borrow money as a company than it is as a sole trader. Now, in terms of the disadvantages, yes, there are some. First of all, it's more of an admin burden. So you've got to go through the process of setting it up. You've got to create your business bank account. You've got to file annual accounts. But that to me is a very small negative, and you will hire an accountant. You will need to hire an accountant. First of all, because they will be able to calculate exactly how much tax is the right amount of tax to be paying. So they'll be able to cut your tax bill massively. And secondly, they'll just reduce that admin burden for you. They'll do a lot of the work for you. So both of those together are kind of one negative point together. They're not massive ones, but they are downsides versus, say, a sole trader. And then the next one, if this is important to you, so as a limited company in the UK, all of your information, all of your company's information, is public if somebody wanted to look that up. So if someone really wanted to, they could go on Companies House and see where your company was registered, and they could look at your annual accounts. But guys, this is not something I would be too concerned with, because as a small company, the annual accounts that are prepared are pretty restrictive in terms of what information they provide. So this is really not a big deal, in my opinion. So those are the pros and cons there summarized for you. As you can see, I've highlighted the 2 bold ones that I consider most important, and this is exactly why I think it is much better, in my opinion, to set up a company. Now, a big question that I get on the Amazon FBA Smashers group, I get this quite a lot, is do you have to set up a company to do Amazon FBA? Now, the short answer is no, you don't. You can create your Amazon account as a sole trader, but I promise you it is in your best interest to create a company, a limited company eventually. Now, most people agree that the advantages of a limited company far outweigh those of a sole trader, which is why most seller accounts on Amazon are limited companies. Now, of course, it's completely up to you, and what I would advise is for you to speak with a financial advisor or an accountant and see what they advise. But that is exactly what I would say. That's my opinion. Now, in terms of what I did and what I would recommend to do is, if you want to start your product research now, you can do that as a sole trader. You can just get on with it right away. That's exactly what I did. And then as soon as I found the product, as soon as I thought this product looks really interesting, that's when I created my limited company, and then I went onto Amazon, created my seller account, and then registered all my company's details. That was absolutely fine. That's completely legal to do. You can of course start as a sole trader and then move on to a company. Now, the reason that I say to do that is, what I would really advise not to do is register on Amazon as a sole trader and then further down the line change to be a company. The reason being that it is a massive headache. I've seen a lot of complaints online of people who have done this and then found their accounts getting banned, and Amazon just being really difficult, as they sometimes can be. So that is why, guys, I would advise start today just as a sole trader. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to go through the admin burden of creating a company. I would get on with your product research, and then if you find a product, or when you find your product, fantastic, great, you can then create your company and create your Amazon seller account. Or alternatively, if you start doing your product research and you think, do you know what, I don't actually think Amazon's quite right for me, then there's absolutely no time wasted. You don't have to go through the admin burden of closing the company down and closing your business account down and anything like that. You can literally just, you know, close the book and then that's it. So that is my advice there, guys. That's exactly what I did. And that is something that I found zero problems with, didn't face any issues whatsoever, and that is exactly what I advise all of my students to do who are on the Amazon FBA Smashers course. So hopefully you enjoyed this, guys, and hopefully it's cleared up a lot of questions. I do get asked these questions quite a lot on the Smashers group. So hopefully you've enjoyed it, and if you have, feel free to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.